Video game! Video game! Video game! Video game! A really good game just came out this year.
So I'm a bit of a fan of niche indie games. It's kind of my shtick. Or one of my many shticks, rather. When it comes to games that pique my interest, it's way more likely that a unique and more out there indie game grabs my attention rather than some big AAA game. Not saying big budget AAA games are bad or anything, I'm mainly just drawn to these more small but creative and passion driven indie developed games. Bug Fables, The Wild at Heart, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Going Under, etc. And one of my favorite genres of games to see make a resurgence in recent years as a result of indies are 3D platformers. These kinds of games used to be the big boys of the industry back in the day, but after focus shifted over to shooters in terms of what was super popular, especially with the 7th generation of game consoles, 3D platformers ended up falling more and more into obscurity. The era of the mascot platformer was over, and the genre just kind of fell to the wayside, but the past decade or so has seen a big revival of the genre through the releases of projects from indie studios. Lunistis, Demon Turf, Tori 3D, and Blue Fire are just a handful of the many fantastic indie developed games to have released in the past couple of years. Hell, we've even seen a return from some of the big boys, like with Crash 4 and the Spyro Reignited trilogy, and even older, more niche mascot platformers like KO the Kangaroo popping up out of seemingly nowhere to say, "We're back, bitches!" What noise does a kangaroo make? Yeah! And there are a bunch of different ways that you can go about making a platformer too, and deciding what you want the focus of it to be. You can make it more about puzzle solving, with the platforming taking a bit more of a backseat. You could have it be more of a collectathon platformer, maybe something more linear and on a level by level basis, or even do something more open and exploration focused. There's a lot of different options open here. My favorite kinds of 3D platformers though, right there next to collectathons, are by far the ones that focus on the movement. We'll get to you one day, my sweet. Games that really dig into how unique and diverse they can make a character's moveset to make traveling around the game world as fun as possible. Well, one day when scrolling through Twitter, like any good Gen Zer would, I would stumble upon a clip from a game called Pseudoregalia, and just by seeing a short snippet of what the game was like, I knew right off the bat I was gonna love this game. This was right up my alley. You're telling me this little game right here is not only an indie platformer game, but it's also a Metroidvania, and you get to utilize all these cool movement abilities in both exploration and combat. It's just the perfect blend of platforming I've been looking for. So, not even a full day after learning about this game's existence, I would sit my pasty ass down, open Steam, and buy the game without any regrets. And at only $6 too. I feel like I'm committing a goddamn crime. Enough dawdling, let's open her up! And so, the game begins. We're birthed from the dream mirror into Bongo Bongo's dungeon, and our adventure begins. Ah! Well, thank God for accessibility options, am I right? Now, the story, to my knowledge, is all about our goat bunny cat lady main character named Sybil entering into this castle through this magic mirror. Sybil, what are you doing in there? You're supposed to be saving the day. You gotta save the game. What are you doing? Don't look at me like that. Hey, stop that. Stop. What are you doing? No, stop it. Stop. This ain't your average Ocarina of Time castle, though, because it's also this girl's dream world. Now, you kind of have to piece together the game's story by playing through it and exploring, talking to NPCs, and just making assumptions based on these different areas and everything going on here. But if my dumbass has this correctly, this girl here, the princess, the final boss of the game, tried to escape a not-so-great life in the real world and completely submerged herself in this dream world. Why live in a shitty reality when you can just create a perfect dream world to live in? Well, I'll tell you, because in due time, the dream is gonna start falling apart. Because as much as we wish this reality our minds created for us, this escape is real, it's not really real.
Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
It's all dandy and fine at first, but once the residents of the castle start suffering, the structure of the place itself starts falling apart, and the eggs start becoming deviled eggs, then you know, maybe things aren't looking too great anymore. Oh, that's why it's called fake royalty. Oh. So that's why we're here. We're like the Ghostbusters for waking up sad dreamers. We're like the sexy Ghostbusters Klonoa without the depressing cutscene of being ripped away into the sky butthole. It's fine, I have no idea what words just came out of my mouth either. To start off, since I know most of you have probably already taken note of this, but this game has some really good presentation, visually and thematically. And I know what you're thinking. Brendan, you got a couple screws loose? You off your rocker, old man? I can count the number of polygons here on my fucking nips. Yeah, I know, gamer, that's what makes it charming. I know I'm the guy who likes quirky niche indie projects, so this probably isn't too surprising. But I've always really wanted more games to take on a similar style graphically to something you'd see from the 5th generation of game consoles. And there are a lot of great games that take on this kind of style, imitating something that looks almost N64 or PS1-like in graphics. But none have nailed it quite in the way I've been looking for like Pseudoregalia has. For these other games, I think the graphics are great and they fit the games wonderfully. And while they have a lower poly count, you can obviously tell that something like this wouldn't actually run on the original hardware it's inspired by. Here though, I feel like you could genuinely fool someone that, at a glance, this was an actual N64 game. It really has that graphical style nailed down to a T. Wait, you're telling me that it's not? Then that can only mean... Oh no! No. The textures, the lighting, the environments, that old school draw distance fog, hell, even the character animations. The way characters are animated are probably a bit more high quality than something you'd see on older hardware, but they still look choppy enough to where you can't really tell unless you're really digging into it. They still look great. Man, I've been wanting a game that looks and feels like this for years. It just checks off every box for what I could want out of a game like this in terms of tone and feel. It was like a dream platformer finally coming to reality, so you can bet your ass I'm gonna be getting more in depth with why I love it so much. Back on the graphics for now though, the environments here feel straight out of that same era too. The main castle's aesthetic feels like a big N64 Zelda dungeon, but while still feeling unique and original in its own right. There are a lot of areas here where I'll be exploring, and I get the same feeling I did walking around the castle from Mario 64 as a kid. Even in more safe-feeling areas and around other NPCs, there's this almost eerie vibe that kept me on edge. You're perfectly safe, there are no enemies in sight, but it still just has that liminal space sort of feeling to it, if that makes sense. But, you know, let's look at something a little less ominous. Look at these little guys! I just want to pick one of them up and pat him on the head. Oh no! I accidentally threw him down the well! Good thing I have my headphones in so that I can ignore this situation. This game's got a nice ass soundtrack. A lot of the music really fits the vibe of this game super well. You've got the more ambient track for exploring the main castle, the music of the keep hanging onto that ambience, but while also feeling a bit more foreboding as well. It might be a little bit of a weird comparison, but it kind of feels like if you combine some of the music from Banjo Kazooie with the Holly Jolly Village theme from Partners in Time. Then there's this relaxing, almost nostalgic feeling song that plays in the listless library, the jazzy sounding music of the Twilight Theater, and lastly, how could I forget about the absolute banger that plays during the final boss fight?
It's a good freaking song!
Oh damn! Holy, she's fucking schmoovin'! Oh my god! We've reached the meat of the game, everybody! And my favorite part of this experience by far, the fantastic movement and platforming. You know, the game part of the video game. There's a fucking gnat in my room! Get out! Get out! Get out! Ah! Things start off relatively simple at the beginning of the game, slowly introducing the basics to your moveset. You've got a standard jump, a backflip / side somersault, your sword, the Dreambreaker, and this slide move. Pretty simple, all things considered right now, but the game already does a great job at showing how fun even a smaller moveset like this can be when executed well. And goddamn is it executed well. Grabbing up onto ledges and popping out into a jump feels snappy as hell. Sword slashes have this nice weight and to them. You know what I'm saying? Kill the egg! It's already been tainted by the ghouls that lie in this dungeon! Kill it! Snuff it out like the rotten poultry it is! Normal jumps have this satisfying sound effect every time you make one and land back on the ground, and lastly, that slide move can be used for more than just getting underneath tight gaps. Using it as a way to gain some momentum as you move around this area is so damn satisfying. I just couldn't stop myself from using it any chance I could. The opening area all culminates into this little boss fight at the end, where you get to use what you've learned to fight them, and yes, that does include using the platforming abilities too. The way the platformer side of this game flows into the combat is seamless. The versatility you have from your arsenal of moves, mainly your slide, expands beyond traversing this castle and into the fights you'll have inside it too. You don't start out with everything unlocked right off the bat here though, because baby, this game is a Metroidvania. If you want some new abilities to play around with, then go, Scoot, go find them! Along with platformers, Metroidvanias are one of my favorite game genres, and Pseudoregalia is just like the perfect mesh of both of those things. The way that your platforming abilities are used in this non-linear fashion is so damn satisfying and enjoyable to play around with. You gain access to different parts of the castle by unlocking new moves that let you progress past different obstacles in your way. However, you're not locked into getting these abilities in the same order every time, and there isn't always just one way to get past an obstacle. You might be locked out of certain areas until you upgrade your platforming arsenal, but there's still a lot of different ways that you can go about exploring the castle. During my first playthrough, I got this high jump ability pretty early on, which opened up a lot of different areas for me to explore right off the bat. In a later playthrough though, I made getting these wall kicks a bigger priority for me, and I was forced to think outside the box a lot more when I was trying to reach different areas, especially combined with, say, the wall run. I don't have a high jump to give me that extra verticality this time around, but if I aim these wall kicks just right and use my wall runs to get just a bit of extra height, hey, there we go! I don't think I've played a Metroidvania or even a platformer that lets you get as much out of your moveset as this game does. The limitations in your platforming abilities doesn't come from the moveset itself, but rather your ability to utilize that moveset in clever ways, and I love that. In most other platforming games or Metroidvanias, there will be these moments where I see an obstacle and say to myself, yeah, I'm probably gonna need to come back here once I get a new ability or something like that. But here, I see these obstacles, and I'm like, nah, hold my fucking drink, bitch.
Is this paint?
You want to talk about letting the player have freedom and control over how they choose to play a game? Bitch, this whole experience is I don't know if you've been looking at the game or paying attention, but that goat's got an ass! At the time of writing this, I've already done 3 100% playthroughs of this game and started a 4th using a CRT display. I need it to feel authentic! And I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface of how I'm able to go about exploring this place. And that, of course, is in big part, like I mentioned before, to the great movement abilities you have at your disposal here. There were multiple times entering into an area where I'd think to myself like, man, it would be so fun to wall jump off of these bookshelves, or this slide move feels really good to move around with, but it would be really cool if I could jump directly out of it. And lo and behold, here it is! This shit feels even better to use now. I thought the wall jump move would end up just being a standard wall jump, just blah, 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 boom, reach the top. But instead, you have a wall kick. It felt a bit weird getting used to, but man, after you do get used to it, it honestly felt way more versatile than a standard wall jump. It allows you to use it more ways than just one. You could use it like a standard wall jump, but you could also get more use out of it by taking advantage of the way certain walls are angled, or hell, even combine it with other moves to travel distances that would otherwise feel impossible to pull off. The kick provides a little bit of extra distance, so combine it with a jump slide and you'll go flying. And there are so many different ways of combining stuff like this with your other moves as well. It becomes a fun little game of trying to string together little combos in order to inch out the most height or distance that you can, and with just how freeing this moveset is and how non-restrictive the game is overall, if you really try, you can pull off some crazy stuff here. There are probably still so many options that I haven't even considered when it comes to combining my moves, which will inevitably change up how I play the game during my next playthrough. It's really all about experimenting with what's given to you and then seeing what you can make out of it. You know what? I'll just come out and fucking say it. Pseudoregalia has the most fun moveset in any platformer I've played. It's no contest. I'm that confident in this game. Did you know? Seeing this moveset in action just made me violently shit my pants. Mario, Sonic, move the hell over. We've got ourselves a new top dog when it comes to 3D platforming characters. And speaking of which, can we talk about Sybil's actual character design here? There's just something about her design that I absolutely love. And that's the fact that it really does remind me of an old school mascot platformer. What? You think I was gonna talk about something else? You got something on your mind you want to share with the class? Maybe it's just the low poly art style, but Sybil's design really feels like something right out of the era, all while feeling perfectly modern at the same time, if that makes sense. It's just a really creative and fun design. I don't know, man, I love it. I also love being able to choose between different outfits and unlocking some slight variations as you play through the game. I really like being able to customize the character I'm playing as, especially when the character already has a great design to begin with. And hey, from the looks of things, we might even be getting some more outfits possibly added in the future, so that's pretty nice. Getting back to how Sybil as a character moves though, the moveset you utilize here really feels like it's incentivizing the player to sequence break and experiment with solving these platforming challenges in whatever way you can think of. There were multiple times where I'd see something that looked just out of my reach, but I told myself, nah, I'm gonna fucking get up there. After trial and error and attempt after attempt, I'd finally make it up there. And by the time I would reach that area, I'd look back and realize that there was actually an intended way of reaching it all along. I just decided to do things the hard way. But honestly, no complaints in having done things that way. Doing things the quote-unquote unintended way feels so much more satisfying than going along the path most people would take. Not in the sense that, oh, I broke the game and cheated, let's go! But more so in the sense that I found a different, more out-of-the-box way of utilizing Sybil's moveset in order to get me where I wanted to go. It's from factors like that I can already tell this game would be amazing for speedrunning, because the way that the movement and abilities allow you to figuratively break apart this game is so fast-paced and fun, and allows for so many different ways of approaching different obstacles and areas. Or, you know, literally breaking the game apart in some instances. I spent a good few hours looking up and messing around with these out-of-bounds skips the one day, just exploring outside of the map and seeing what everything looks like out here, which in itself was oddly its own fun challenge. How can I utilize Sybil's moveset to its fullest potential so that I can just about squeeze myself out of bounds? And even when I did finally successfully make it, I'd see a cool looking area off in the distance, and it became a game of how I could make it over there to check it out without either falling back in bounds or into the void below.
So this is where Calamity got his stored all his goopy.
Ever since I entered this area during my first playthrough, I told myself, I want to get up there. I don't care if it's technically out of bounds, I don't care how far out of reach it is, how impossible it might seem. If there's one game where I feel like I can pull a fucking Gurren Lagann and make the impossible possible, bitch, it's this game. At the time of writing this, at least me personally, I haven't seen anyone else find a way to do it yet, so screw it, I'll gladly do it myself. When you try and attempt this kind of stuff in game, it might feel like you're just banging your head into a wall at times, but man, that's a pretty fun looking wall. And you know, even if you lose a lot of blood along the way, if you try just hard enough, you might start seeing some cracks show through. It might have taken me like 30 minutes straight of attempts, but in the end, it was worth it. We got ourselves a pretty view, and although it might have seemed impossible at times, it was pretty damn fun playing around and seeing how I could get this dumb little scheme to work. Guys, I think I might have broke her. I think I broke Sybil. She doesn't seem too happy with me anymore. And Sybil. But yeah, there's a lot of depth in Sybil's moveset that allows for some crazy stuff to happen if you want to. That's what I was talking about, right? I think that's what I was talking about. Is that in the script?
Is that what I wrote?
Yes, it is. Outside of the obvious main moves and little upgrade orbs or health medallions that you find laying around, you might even find out about some more hidden mechanics or moves that, like me, you might go your whole first playthrough without ever learning at first. Like, this could just be me being stupid, that's not super far-fetched, but I didn't know about the normal way of executing a backflip until just recently. I'd always do more of this side somersault type move instead. They both give you about the same amount of height, but I just find it interesting that there's more than one way of executing this move that just seemed to pass me by. Same with being able to do a backflip out of a wall kick or high jump. I thought I remembered seeing some clips of other people doing it, but I never really thought to do that during my playthroughs. Again, could just be me being stupid, but now that I do know about it, it's definitely going to be changing up how I approach things whenever I play the game from now on. Another more hidden move, and by hidden move, I mean it just took me a while to realize that you could do it, even though there's a sub-menu that tells you you can do it. I'm a fucking gamer. By pressing the left bumper on your controller or tab on the keyboard, you're able to throw your sword, which on its own isn't anything hidden, but I more so want to look at what you can do past that initial throw. Firstly is the fact that throwing your sword creates a little bit of a glow that can help light up dark areas, which, for someone who decided to play through the game on CRT for some reason, is a lot more useful than I expected.
Hey guys, welcome to my Let's Play of Pseudoregalia. Today, we're gonna show you how to shove a pointy stick in your ass.
More useful than that though, if you think to combine that sword throw with a wall kick and nail your timing and aim just right, you can combo that shit and turn your Dream Breaker into a projectile, launch that thing straight at the enemies. I do like how doing that is a little bit of a risk-reward thing though, and if you don't end up killing the enemy with your sword turned flying missile, then you've got to run over to wherever it ended up landing and pick it back up manually. You're allowed to recover health without needing to run back to a save point by using up some of your magic, but only when you have the Dream Breaker in your possession. So if you want to heal, then you've got to make sure that bad boy's on hand, which in some fights is easier said than done, because if you get hit with a heavy enough attack, Sybil will end up getting knocked back and the sword will fly out of her hand. From there, it becomes a game of being able to dance around your opponent so you can get back over to your weapon and keep the fight going, which with this game's fantastic movement abilities feels really satisfying to do. It's never super hard or too dangerous going to receive your sword, but it's just that extra little bit of spice that keeps the combat more engaging that I really do like.
This evil hand doesn't stand a fucking chance.
The final boss of the game in particular really puts a spotlight on just how well the movement can work in combat and just how fun it can be. The only real negative I have in relation to combat is that this final fight made me wish that there were more like it in the game, which isn't even really a negative. I didn't even think about it until after fighting the final boss, but having a couple other bosses to go up against would have been so much fun. Like, I remember getting the major key for the Sansa Keep and expecting some sort of boss to appear that I'd have to fight in this throne room, or even thinking how cool it would have been if this Hall of Armor right outside all came to life in response to me collecting the key. Again, I'm not trying to be negative or nitpicky or anything like that. I generally think that Pseudoregalia has some of, if not the most fun movement in any platformer I've played before, if I haven't made that clear already. So the more excuses to utilize its movement options in different scenarios, the better. This is one of those games where the movement is so fast, fun, and snappy that it doesn't matter what I'm doing, what platforms I'm jumping on, or even if there are any platforms there at all. As long as I can hop around and play with this character's array of platforming abilities, that's all I care about. During my first playthrough, there were a lot of times where I would get lost or just wander aimlessly trying to find where to go next or see where I hadn't been yet, but it was never really frustrating. Moving from room to room was super fun in its own right, whether it was a room I'd already been to or something brand new. Like the egg room! One must imagine syphilis happy. I mean Sisyphus. I do think that despite that, the option of having a map would be nice, and luckily that seems to be in the works right now for anyone who might be struggling without one. So by the time this comes out, there might be a map. You can use a map now. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man. But for me at least, it was never a problem. It reminds me of when I would play Hollow Knight.
Uppies! Uppies! I want a piece!
Dying to a boss over and over again. It didn't matter how many times I had to walk back to that boss arena, make that same trek time and time again. Just moving around the game world was fun enough to the point where it didn't matter, and that's the same sort of thing for me here. If you like Metroidvanias, platformers, or even just games with the characters that feel fantastic and fun to control, maybe just give this game a shot. Please give it a shot. For me.
Oh, my neck. Oh, fuck.
Over the past few weeks, Pseudoregalia has easily become one of my favorite platformers. It's short, it's replayable as all hell, and it's just an absolute blast to play. If Pikmin 4 didn't exist, or Pikmin 4 as I wrote in the script, I did not spell that right, this would easily have taken Game of the Year from me so far. It's no contest. And it's like I mentioned earlier, the game is only a few bucks on Steam, which is more than worth the price. I feel like I'm committing a crime by paying this little for such a great game, short length or not. Plus, I want to say that there's a pretty good chance that this game might come to Switch at some point, even if it's a little while away, so if you don't have access to the game on PC, I'd keep your eye out just in case. Even if they're underrated as hell right now, buddy, there might just be a new top dog in fun to control platformers, at least for me and my favorites. We've got Hat Kid, Banjo and Kazooie, we've got the classics of Sonic and Mario, and now we've got Sip. So go buy yourself some Pseudoregalia for the portable PC computer before I come to your house and gently convince you to do so, because it is a very good game. Isn't that right, Kablooey? Get back in the bag. I didn't own any Sonic gloves.
Look at this fool! He thinks he can have the Shmoovement like Sip.
What? I totally have the schmooze. I have the schmooze. You wanna see I don't have any? I have the schmooze. I'll show you. I'll show both of you. I'll show all of you. I will show you all. I have the schmooze, bitch.
You could schmoove like that? Whoa, 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 oh my god! Oh, damn! Oh, he's really stronger now!
Where did my pinky go? My pinky's gone!